Dagger, and this is a little behind the scenes look at how I went about making Bowtie the animated ID for Adult Swim. Typically, you start with a pitch. You are essentially selling them on your idea. I was asked to come up with two. One was a more Berserk-inspired short that honestly would have ended up being way more complicated and taken longer when it came down to crunch time, and the other was Evangelion-inspired. A little less complicated for different reasons, mostly character involved. In both, I denoted the protags were meant to be queer-coded, and it's evident in their design. With both, I started with the general idea and then pooled a bunch of reference, so when it came time to pitch them, what I handed over was a description of the plot, the images I picked to give a sense of the overall feel of the short, and character designs that I sketched out of the main protagonist. What they landed on was the Evangelion pitch. I knew stylistically I would be going simpler because I knew that I would be mainly the one handling 99% of the actual animation. You can and should distribute animation for scenes if you have the gathered people and have a workflow set up for that, but I knew I wasn't quite as organized as I needed to be for this project to do so. I would also be a bit anxious for deliverables with a project like this that needed to be done within a couple of months, versus a project that would be worked on for a full year. Making a team I can distribute work to would still be in the cards for a future project, however. I honed the character design a bit more for the main character, the robot, and the kaiju. I knew I wanted my character to be identifiably trans, hence the top surgery scars that are in their lab shot and incorporated into their suit. I made them a bit stockier for my initial design as well, and leaned towards the infinity symbol motif quite a bit, even more so for their mech. The initial boards looked something like this. Considering the time frame and my arthritic hands, I'd be going for a more limited style of design for the animation. It's at 24 frames per second, but drawn on mostly 2s and 3s, meaning that every 2 or 3 frames there's a newest drawing. I am not trying to make Akira, which is drawn on 1s at 30 frames per second, nor do I have the manpower. I just want to get it done. So there are merits to chopping off the nose in front-facing shots, etc. I made the animatic for the 30-second short in Toon Boom Storyboard Pro, which is a program I've been using since college. A lot of the industry shifted over to using it between me graduating in 2016 to now. A key reason I'm using it is because I know I will be animating in Toon Boom Harmony, which is the animation suite. I can export the animatic scene for scene into Harmony from Storyboard Pro with a click. In retrospect, I should have named the folders better because I got a lot of 0004, 000004, etc. But I ended up creating a little spreadsheet for my internal use. Had I been sending scenes to other animators to animate, this is also where I would house that information. For backgrounds, however, I knew I didn't want to draw any of those, so I enlisted the help of my friend Buttercup. They turned them around pretty quickly, and they came out amazing. Other pieces of the short were painted between Procreate and Clip Studio Paint. Outside of my day job, I don't use Photoshop for much at all anymore. Initially, I think I might have timed the animatic to a remix of something from the Evangelion OST, but the actual track Engage, I commissioned Arcade Colon to do. That went through several stages before reaching the final version you hear in the short. The animatic was approved after a couple of edits, so I was clear to start fully animating. Here's an example of how I set up one scene. I've grouped characters to avoid mass clutter, and as Buttercup finished backgrounds, I would slot those in. Some effects were added in Premiere, and final compositing was done there as well. I had the animatic as a track underneath the scenes as I went from rough to final, because I was sending progress exports over. It also, combined with the Excel sheet, gives positive feedback as to, yes, I am getting things done, dopamine. There are definitely things I wanted to do re-atmosphere that I eventually just ended up burning out on, but will attempt in shorter projects in the future. Buttercup actually animated the final shot of the kaiju and monster struggling, so animation-wise and background-wise, that is 100% them. I also commissioned them, Poochie, and No Doubty for colored posters of the characters that you can check on their and my social media. I was animating all of this on my Huion canvas and drawing partially with my iPad Pro. Overall, this project was very fun, and maybe one of the longer completed ones I've done outside of college, where I actually enjoyed the end result instead of nitpicking. Before I cut to the final animation, I'll leave you with this Shinji quote to chew on from the 1996 version of Evangelion. "Everything is a description, not my real self. Everything's a shape, an identifier to let others recognize me as me. But then what am I? Is this me? My true self? My fake self?" I will not elaborate. Thank you for listening, and see you later.